Preface of Story. In the early 1980s, when the world was quieter, before the sounds of notifications and the hum of emails, people found friendship and love in the written word. This is the story of Sonu, a young naval officer with a bright mind and a loyal heart, and Subhashini, a compassionate nurse whose beauty and grace touched all who met her. Chapter 1. Sonu. Sonu was known for his intelligence and skills. He had excelled in his studies from school to the engineering courses of the Indian Navy. He had an attractive personality with jet black hair, sharp eyes, and a cheerful smile that could charm anyone. Standing about 6 feet tall, his dedication to working out had given him a strong and healthy physique. His clothing was always refined and appropriate. He usually dressed in simple colors but with an unmistakable sophistication. His dressing style was a blend of simplicity and elegance, enhancing his unique persona. Due to his academic excellence, Sonu was given an early opportunity to join the Indian Navy. Through hard work and dedication, he graduated at the top of his engineering course. His talent and perseverance earned him a prestigious posting in Visakhapatnam, Vizag. Visakhapatnam, a beautiful coastal city known for its natural beauty and peaceful atmosphere, brought peace to Sonu's heart. The blue sea, golden sandy beaches, and lush green hills provided solace, yet despite the city's charm, Sonu felt an emptiness inside. Amidst the hustle and bustle of the city, he often felt a nameless loneliness. He yearned for a companion with whom he could share his thoughts and dreams. Sonu's life lacked friends. He stayed away from alcohol and parties, and his disciplined nature kept him from forming deep bonds of friendship. He was always busy striving for excellence, but this constant pursuit also made him feel alone. Sonu's mindset was always positive. He was ready to face any challenge life threw at him, but when it came to finding friends or a partner, he felt stuck. One day, while reading Mirror magazine, he came across a pen pal section where people advertised for friendship. That day an idea struck him. He wrote a brief advertisement expressing his interests and his wish for friendship. He was not sure if someone would respond. But it happened. This small decision Sonu made to put an ad in Mirror magazine was about to change his life. A few days later, he received a letter from a girl named Subhashini. Chapter 2. Subhashini. Subhashini belonged to a respectable South Indian family. Her father was a retired IG officer, and her mother had spent some years working abroad. Despite her family's affluence, Subhashini found her true calling in serving others. She completed her BSc in nursing and began working at the Tata Memorial Cancer Hospital in Bombay. Her nature was full of care and empathy. Subhashini had always excelled in her studies. She was a top student in school and had a special interest in science and mathematics. Through hard work and dedication, she performed exceptionally well in higher education too, earning a gold medal in nursing. Her commitment and sense of responsibility were the main reasons behind her success. Subhashini's circle of friends wasn't large. Her studies and work kept her so busy that she had little time left for socializing. Moreover, she loved her family dearly and preferred spending her time with them. She had a few close friends who understood her professional life and appreciated her dedication. This limited circle of friends motivated her even more to find someone to share her thoughts and emotions with. When Subhashini read Sonu's advertisement in Mirror magazine, she felt a unique curiosity. His words had a simplicity and sincerity that resonated with her. She thought this could be a good opportunity to connect with someone who might understand her perspectives and aspirations. In her first letter, she shared details about herself, including her family, work, and passion for nursing. Initially, she was a bit hesitant and cautious in expressing her emotions. But as the exchange of letters grew, she opened up more to Sonu. Their letters discussed various aspects of life, work, dreams, and social responsibilities. Subhashini took great care when writing her letters. She used beautiful paper and colorful envelopes, and she had a unique way of folding them neatly. Sometimes she even drew little illustrations on them. The arrival of Sonu's letters brought her immense joy. Their correspondence reflected a deep connection, highlighting their personalities' compatibility. Sonu's romantic thoughts and Subhashini's compassion helped them bond. Through their letters, they shared ideas and began to understand each other more deeply. Subhashini realized that Sonu's way of thinking and perspective on life matched hers in many ways. This exchange of letters and rare phone calls gradually carved a special place in their hearts, evolving their friendship into a deeper connection, hinting at a unique future to come. Chapter 3. Destined to meet. Months passed, and life on the naval base in Visakhapatnam continued its usual routine, filled with drills, patrols, and rigorous schedules. But one day, during a regular morning briefing, Sonu received news that changed everything. He had been transferred to Bombay, the headquarters of the Western Naval Command. This transfer was not just a career milestone. It was an opportunity that reignited the hope and excitement within him. The chance to be in Bombay, where Subhashini lived, filled him with a wave of joy he hadn't felt in years. Sonu's new assignment was to serve aboard a frigate-class ship, one of the finest in the Indian Navy. Frigates were known for their speed, agility, and firepower, often playing a crucial role in the defense and maritime security operations of the nation. The Western Naval Command, with its headquarters in Bombay, was the largest and most strategically significant of the Indian Navy's commands. This command was responsible for overseeing operations in the Arabian Sea, protecting the western seaboard, and ensuring the nation's maritime sovereignty. The base was bustling with activity, hosting a fleet of powerful destroyers, stealth frigates, submarines, and aircraft carriers that showcased India's naval strength and technological prowess. For Sonu, the prospect of serving in the Western Naval Command was a testament to his hard work and dedication. It meant being part of the front line, a position coveted by many. Yet, beyond the professional pride, there was something deeper that tugged at his heart, a renewed chance to be closer to Subhashini. As he absorbed the news, memories of Subhashini's letters and their shared dreams rushed through his mind. He recalled the evenings they spent describing the sunsets they both watched from different corners of the country. The idea of being in the same city as her filled him with a longing so powerful that it left him momentarily speechless. His heart raced at the thought of meeting her, holding her hand, and seeing her face light up with that smile that had been his source of warmth and comfort even from afar. That evening, with anticipation buzzing in his veins, Sonu called Subhashini. The phone rang, and for a moment he feared she might not pick up. But then her familiar, gentle voice said, "Hello, Subhashini, it's me, Sonu," he said, trying to keep his composure. "I have some news." There was a brief pause, and he could almost imagine her standing there with the phone in hand, curiosity and excitement in her eyes. "What is it, Sonu?" she asked, her voice soft and hopeful. "I'm being transferred to Bombay. I'll be serving on a frigate-class ship under the Western Naval Command." There was a moment of silence, then a gasp. "Bombay? You're coming here?" The tremor in her voice betrayed her excitement, and Sonu's chest tightened at the sound. "Yes," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "I'll be there in a few weeks." "Oh, Sonu, that's wonderful," Subhashini exclaimed. He could hear the joy in her voice, as if all the barriers of time and distance had suddenly collapsed. Her happiness was palpable, reaching across the miles that still separated them. "I can't believe this. Finally, we'll be in the same city." The rest of their conversation was filled with shared laughter, plans, and the nervous anticipation of their long-awaited meeting. Subhashini felt a flutter of joy that made her heart beat faster. She walked around her small apartment, touching the edges of the frames that held memories of her achievements and family. But today, her heart held only thoughts of Sonu. In the days that followed, Subhashini could hardly contain her excitement. At the hospital, her colleagues noticed a change in her demeanor, a new light in her eyes, a gentle hum of a song on her lips as she worked. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the thought of going home didn't come with a familiar pang of longing, but with the promise of something more. For Sonu, every moment leading up to the transfer was a mix of anticipation and preparation. He immersed himself in the final tasks in Visakhapatnam, but his mind was already navigating the bustling streets of Mumbai, searching for familiar sights and imagining the moments he would soon share with Subhashini. The Navy's life was demanding, but for Sonu, the transfer brought not just new challenges but a new hope, the kind that made all the struggles worthwhile. Bombay awaited, and with it, the promise of dreams that had been written in letters and kept alive by hope. Finally he arrived in Bombay and joined his ship. After settling down in his ship accommodation, went out after duty hours to call Subhashini from a private telephone. He politely asked her if she would like to meet him on coming Sunday at Times of India building just across the famous Victoria terminus. Subhashini readily agreed, as she was also looking forward to meet Sonu. Subhashini asked how we will recognize each other. He told her that he will be wearing blue jeans and sky and white color small checkered shirt and will be holding the paper follower she had sent to him in her letter. They had exchanged pictures in their letters, but it would not be much of help to find a person in the crowd near Victoria terminus. He had an idea how she looked, but to be sure that he would find her easily, he wanted to know what she would be wearing. Subhashini told him that she will be in a blue sari and will be holding a red rose in her hand. He asked her how she will be arriving. She informed Sonu that she will be coming by bus as it was convenient for her to reach the Times of India building. Sonu said, "Very good. I will be waiting for you at the bus stop." Chapter 4. The Times of India building and Victoria terminus. The Times of India building, a relic from the British era, stood tall and dignified, its grandeur reflecting the significance of the institution within. This was the home of the Times of India, one of the country's most respected newspapers, a voice of the nation that documented the heartbeat of India. The building had a timeless charm, with intricate stone carvings and towering windows that cast shadows across the bustling street below. Across the road lay Victoria Terminus, or Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, a majestic railway station with its Gothic-style arches, domed roofs, and spires that reached toward the sky. Victoria Terminus was more than just a railway station. It was a symbol of India's spirit and diversity. It served as a gateway to the country, connecting Mumbai with every corner of India, and its platforms were always alive with travelers from all walks of life. Chapter 5. The First Meeting. Sonu arrived at the bus stop beside the Times of India building on time. His eyes scanned everyone who was getting down from the bus. When he finally Sonu saw Subhashini getting down from the bus, his heart skipped a beat. She was even more beautiful in person than her picture, her long curls framing her delicate features and her sari gracefully draped around her. Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment, they both paused, taking in the presence of the person they had come to know so well through their letters. Subhashini handed the rose to Sonu and said, "Welcome to Bombay." Sonu replied, "Thank you, Subhashini." Subhashini noticed Sonu's boyish charm, his thoughtful eyes, and his slightly nervous smile. He seemed younger than she had imagined, yet there was a quiet strength in his demeanor. As they began talking, the initial tension melted away. They walked to a nearby garden, sat down, and spoke of things they had shared in their letters, laughing over familiar anecdotes and moments that now felt real and vivid. As the evening descended, Sonu insisted on escorting her back. They boarded a double-decker bus that would take them to her accommodation in Kember. The hour-long journey was filled with quiet conversations, shared smiles, and occasional glances. In the back of Sonu's mind, he was aware of the naval regulations that required him to be back before midnight, or else he'd face disciplinary action. Yet, for this one evening, he let himself savor the company of a woman he admired deeply. When they finally arrived, Sonu watched as Subhashini walked away, her silhouette fading into the dim evening light. On his way back to his quarters, he felt a quiet joy mixed with a lingering sadness, as though he was leaving a part of himself behind. This brief meeting had left an impression that he knew would stay with him, and he hoped it was just the beginning of something more. Chapter 6. A Bond Beyond Words. The morning after their first meeting, Subhashini couldn't resist calling Sonu. She missed the warmth in his eyes, the honesty in his laughter, and the calm he seemed to bring. When her call came through, an announcement echoed across the naval ship. "Attention! Sonu, please report to the deck to receive a call. Sonu's heart leapt, knowing it was her. As he picked up the receiver, he couldn't help but smile, hearing her soft, familiar voice on the other end. Their conversation began with the usual laughter and warmth. But then, out of nowhere, Subhashini said, "Sonu, you're too young. I think it would be better if you met my friend. She's from your town and would be a perfect fit for you in every way." Her words struck him like a wave of cold water. Caught off guard, Sonu took a moment to process. "Subhashini, let's meet again next week. Same time and place as before. Let's talk this over," he replied, sounding both hurt and confused. Subhashini did not call again after that, leaving Sonu in a whirl of questions and doubts. The girl he had shared letters with for almost a year, the one who had become his closest friend and confidant. How could she suggest someone else for him? Did she feel he wasn't good enough? Did he fail to meet her expectations? For days, he replayed their conversations, searching for answers. When the day of their second meeting arrived, Sonu was waiting outside the Grand Times of India building. Subhashini arrived wearing a beautiful, elegant sari, different from the last, yet she wore the same fragrance that he had grown to adore. The scent filled the air between them as they exchanged greetings, sparking a warmth he couldn't deny. "Shall we go for coffee at Flora Fountain?" Sonu suggested, his eyes bright with a gentle resolve. Together, they strolled toward Flora Fountain, one of the most vibrant areas in the heart of Mumbai. The fountain, surrounded by beautiful colonial-era buildings, high-end shops, and lively streets, felt like a fitting backdrop for the day's emotions. It was a place that buzzed with the energy of life, full of bustling markets, upscale stores, and street vendors. As they found a quiet table at a cozy restaurant nearby, Sonu's mind was spinning with all he wanted to ask her. Finally, as they settled down with their coffee, Sonu broke the silence, looking straight into her eyes. "Subhashini, why did you say that I'm too young that you would choose a friend for me?" he asked, his tone both puzzled and serious. "Am I not good enough? Or did I not fit your expectations?" Subhashini's head was bowed as she listened, but she eventually lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes with a soft smile. "Sonu, you just look so young. I felt as though I were older than you, maybe even too old for you." Her voice was filled with vulnerability. Sonu chuckled, the tension melting as he quickly replied, "Where is this coming from? You know we're the same age. You're just 1 month older than me." He shook his head, laughing gently. "Subhashini, I don't want anyone new. I want us to be the friends we are, two people who understand each other deeply. Tell me, do you feel the same?" Subhashini's eyes sparkled with emotion. Her cheeks dimpled as she smiled. "Sonu, I'm so glad I met you as a pen pal, and even more now that we're here," she replied softly. "Yes, I like you very much." A wave of relief washed over Sonu. Then it settled. "We'll never bring up this friend match again," he said, sealing their understanding with a gentle smile. Both of them felt a deep connection, and words weren't necessary to express it further. Their conversation grew light again as the waiter brought the coffee. They sipped, laughing and sharing stories, talking about their likes, dislikes, and dreams. Sonu looked across the table, thinking how beautiful Subhashini was, far more captivating than he had imagined. He felt a gentle pull in his heart. She was the first girl he had met and truly liked. After finishing their coffee, they strolled around Flora Fountain, weaving through the lively crowds. As evening approached, Sonu turned to her and said, "Let me drop you off this time." She had traveled nearly an hour on her own to meet him, and he couldn't let her go alone again. They boarded the Kember bus and found seats on the upper deck. The atmosphere between them was light and filled with laughter. The tension that had once clouded them was now gone, replaced with a newfound closeness. Every time Subhashini laughed, her dimples caught Sonu's eye, making his heart skip a beat. He marveled at how lucky he was to have her as a friend, and perhaps something more. When they reached her stop near her hospital accommodation, Sonu knew he had to catch his own return bus. She insisted on staying with him until his bus arrived, and they wished each other good night. Sonu boarded the bus, watching as Subhashini waved, her silhouette disappearing into the night as she walked through the gates. Their bond, once confined to letters, had transformed into something real, something that filled both their hearts with hope. Both returned home that night, their hearts brimming with the warmth of a connection that felt destined to deepen with time. Chapter 7. Friendship blossoms into unspoken love. Sonu and Subhashini's bond grew stronger with each passing day, and soon their meetings became a regular part of their lives. Subhashini began to open up more, sharing her dreams, aspirations, and the small details of her life. One thing Sonu deeply admired about her was her independence. She insisted on sharing the restaurant bills, refusing to let Sonu cover all the expenses. She was financially independent, and it was important to her that they approach everything as equals. She would often bring little gifts for him, and Sonu, in return, would bring her flowers or small surprises. Though he noticed with a smile that Subhashini often gave him more flowers than he did for her. Time flew by, and their friendship became even deeper, a foundation that only grew stronger. It was as if unspoken love lay between them, a quiet presence they both felt but never voiced. Sonu was careful to maintain the sanctity of their bond, always respecting her boundaries. He was mindful not to do anything that might spoil their friendship, waiting for a sign that she might feel the same way about him. As they wandered through Bombay crowded streets, Subhashini would often hold his hand in a casual, friendly way, just as any two friends might in the busy city. Her touch was comforting, and it made him feel connected to her, yet he was cautious not to read too much into it. Every time they met, Sonu noticed that Subhashini never wore the same outfit twice. This observation often made him chuckle. How many clothes did she own? And yet, one thing was always the same: the sweet fragrance of her perfume, a scent he had mentioned he loved. Perhaps she wore it for him. Their conversations were light, covering everything from movies and the challenges of their jobs to family, friends, and life in Mumbai. They never spoke of love, but those conversations were enough for both of them to learn each other's tastes, likes, and dislikes. They were surprised to see how much they had in common, from values to quirks, and even some of their small habits matched perfectly. One day, they found themselves sitting at Marine Drive, watching the sunset over the Arabian Sea. Marine Drive was vibrant yet peaceful, the cool breeze mingling with the hum of the city. Couples sat along the promenade, sharing quiet moments together, with Chowpatty Beach not far away. A popular spot for lovers, Chowpatty Beach was dotted with trees, and under nearly every tree, there was a couple enjoying each other's company. In the midst of Mumbai's busy life where people rushed about, it was refreshing to see that young people still found time for love amidst the city's constant buzz. As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, casting shades of gold and crimson over the sea, vendors wandered along the promenade, stopping by couples to sell trinkets and snacks. Sometimes it was amusing how close they would get, seemingly curious about what each couple was doing. Amidst the beautiful sunset, an unexpected visitor appeared. A hijra, a eunuch, came over to them, demanding money as they often did to couples sitting together. It was a common sight in places like these, but an annoyance nonetheless. Sonu and Subhashini exchanged a smile, handing a few rupees to the hijra, who went on their way with a small blessing. As the sky darkened, they rose, and Sonu, as usual, accompanied Subhashini back to her accommodation. She gave him a warm smile and waved good night as he boarded the return bus. Their hearts were content, filled with a deep connection that required no words. Their friendship had blossomed into something more, a quiet understanding, and perhaps an unspoken love that neither wanted to disturb. Chapter 8. The First Kiss. One day, Sonu and Subhashini planned to meet at Shaun Garden, a small yet beautiful park in Mumbai. Known for its serene atmosphere, the garden was dotted with couples, each wrapped up in their own world, respecting the space and privacy of others. Punctual as always, both Sonu and Subhashini arrived on time, never once keeping each other waiting. Subhashini, like every time they met, was beautifully dressed. She looked stunning, and Sonu once again found himself admiring her impeccable sense of style. As they sat close together on the soft grass, they felt something different, a silent connection that went beyond friendship. It was an unspoken feeling that lingered in the air, deeper and warmer than before. Breaking the silence, Subhashini brought up a topic that seemed a bit unusual. She looked at Sonu with seriousness in her eyes and said, "Sonu, I want to tell you something. It may upset you, but I hope you'll understand." Sonu was surprised but nodded reassuringly. "Tell me, Subhashini. I promise I won't be upset, no matter what it is." She took a deep breath, looked into his eyes and said, "Sonu, you know every woman has to go through a monthly cycle where we suffer, and some have it worse than others. I'm one of those who has it really bad. Sometimes it's so painful that I have to stay in bed, and occasionally I even lose consciousness." Sonu listened intently. Though he knew about this natural cycle, he had never really thought about the extent of pain it might cause. Subhashini's vulnerability stirred something within him. He realized this was deeply personal, something that went beyond the usual conversations. He began to understand why she might have hesitated in letting their friendship blossom into love, perhaps fearing that any man might see this as a flaw and walk away. But Sonu was different. He believed that true love was accepting the good and the difficult parts of a person's life. For him, Subhashini had just shown an immense level of trust by sharing such a private struggle. Overwhelmed by her honesty, Sonu felt his affection deepen, unable to hold back the love he had kept quietly within himself for so long. Gently, he reached out and touched her face, softly lifting her gaze to meet his own. Their eyes locked, and in that quiet moment, there was a silent approval from Subhashini, a warmth that told him it was okay to express what he felt. Leaning in, Sonu tenderly kissed her, whispering, "Don't be afraid, Subhashini. I'm here for you and I'll always be there through everything thick and thin." It was a kiss that marked the beginning of a love they had both longed for, a love built on friendship, trust, and understanding. It was their first kiss, and the first time for both of them. In that gentle, heartfelt kiss, years of companionship transformed into a love that felt natural, deep, and real. Their long friendship was sealed with that kiss, as they finally embraced their feelings and entered a new chapter in their journey, no longer just friends but lovers. Chapter 9: The Movie. Sonu and Subhashini were now deeply in love. They talked regularly, met often, and roamed around Mumbai's beautiful spots like Nehru Garden, Juhu Beach, Marine Drive, and Chowpatty. Unlike before, when they would casually hold hands in crowded places, now they stayed close, their love for each other clear and open, without any hesitation or doubt. One day, Subhashini suggested, "Why don't we go watch a movie together?" A hit movie at that time, Ek Duhe Kaliya, had just been released. Sonu agreed eagerly, saying, "Why not? Let's book the tickets." The next day they met at a theater in Dadar, where Subhashini had bought balcony tickets for the two of them, an upper-level seating section that was the best option in theaters back then, unlike today's multiplexes. Before the movie started, Sonu and Subhashini settled into their seats. With her head gently resting on Sonu's shoulder and her hand holding his, they felt deeply connected. The movie was sentimental, with songs that were not only beautiful but also heart-touching. Sonu was already a little emotional by nature, and the love scenes affected him deeply. He worried that Subhashini might notice his tears, but to his surprise, he found that she was even more sentimental than he was. As the movie unfolded, the story tugged at everyone's heartstrings, and Sonu noticed Subhashini quietly sobbing, her tears falling onto his shirt. Sonu could no longer focus on the film. He was more concerned with consoling her, gently wiping away her tears and comforting her. He even considered taking her outside, as he didn't want her to feel embarrassed about crying in public, but she insisted on staying until the end. This movie experience brought them even closer, deepening the emotional bond they shared. Sitting so close, they both realized how their friendship had blossomed into a true love, one that promised to share every feeling, joy, and challenge together. Chapter 10: The Picnic. A few days later, Subhashini planned a picnic for the two of them at Juhu Beach. Sonu, being a disciplined man of the Indian Navy, met her at the scheduled spot, precisely on time. Juhu Beach, one of Mumbai's most famous beaches, stretched along the Arabian Sea and was known for its vibrant atmosphere. People from all over came here for the cool sea breeze, golden sand, and the endless horizon. Kids played, families enjoyed snacks, and couples strolled hand in hand along the shore. The scent of street food like bel puri and pav bhaji filled the air, adding to the beach's charm. As Sonu arrived, he noticed another woman with Subhashini. Curious, he asked quietly, "Who is she?" Subhashini whispered that she had brought her helper along to make things easier. Sonu couldn't help but smile at her thoughtfulness. She truly knew how to plan things perfectly. The helper had brought along a basket full of food and a mat to spread out on the sand. After walking down the beach, they found a quieter spot, away from the crowds, where hardly anyone was nearby. The helper arranged everything neatly and then excused herself to a nearby shop to give Sonu and Subhashini some privacy. It was an unforgettable experience for Sonu, almost like a scene from a Bollywood movie. They played on the wet sand, splashing water at each other, running and laughing, lost in the moment. At one point, she came running and jumped into Sonu's arms, holding him tightly as he spun her around, both of them laughing freely. Their love was pure and open, and there was no hesitation, no holding back. They embraced and kissed, feeling the joy of simply being together. Later, they settled down on the mat and enjoyed their lunch on the beach. Sonu discovered that day that Subhashini was not only beautiful and organized but also an excellent cook. Everything in the picnic basket had been prepared by her, and each dish was delicious. Sonu felt touched by the effort she had put into making this day so special. As evening approached, they said goodbye, each feeling a little closer and more in love. Sonu headed back to his ship, and Subhashini returned with her helper to her accommodation. Today, Sonu didn't feel the need to drop her off, knowing she was well taken care of. The day left a sweet warmth in his heart, with memories that would last forever. Chapter 11. Sonu's birthday. Everything was going wonderfully for Sonu and Subhashini, and as Sonu's birthday approached, it brought a special excitement for Subhashini. Sonu had never really celebrated his birthday. Since joining the Navy at a young age and coming from a family where birthdays weren't given much importance, he had grown used to the day passing by quietly. Subhashini, however, wanted to make this day special for him. She mentioned her idea of celebrating, but Sonu politely refused with a gentle excuse. She held his hand, a soft smile lighting up her face as her dimples caught his attention. "Sonu, alright, no celebration, but at least you can spare some time to meet me on your special day. Do you want to disappoint the love of your life?" Her words and the sweetness of her request touched his heart, and Sonu couldn't say no. "Why not? I'll surely meet you on my birthday. I'll never disappoint you," he said warmly. On the evening of his birthday, they met at the same spot where they had first met, the Times of India building. Subhashini looked exceptionally beautiful that day, holding a bouquet in her hands, looking like an angel. Handing him the bouquet, she took his hand, kissed it softly and whispered, "Happy birthday, my love." For a moment, Sonu thought he was in a dream, as though this kind of love and beauty only existed in movies or novels. But here he was, being wished by an angel who had come to life. Tears welled up in his eyes and he softly murmured, "Thank you, Subhashini." His voice choked with emotion, and without saying a word, she took out her handkerchief and wiped his tears. She understood how much this moment meant to him. There was no doubt left in her mind about how deeply he loved her. As a birthday gift, Subhashini took his hands in hers, looked into his eyes and asked, "Sonu, will you marry me?" Her proposal left him in joyful disbelief, and he felt tears of joy fill his eyes once again. Hugging her, he whispered, "Yes, Subhashini, I would be honored to marry you." For him, this was the best birthday gift he could have ever received. The night was growing late, and after a heartfelt farewell, Sonu dropped her off and returned to his ship. Chapter 12. The angel vanished. When Sonu heard that his ship was set to depart the next day, a storm stirred within him. He wanted to inform Subhashini as soon as possible and see her one last time. He called her and, in a rush, shared the news of his sudden departure. When Subhashini heard this, she froze, An eerie silence enveloped her voice. She was in shock, as if someone had shaken her heart to its core. Sonu tried to reassure her, promising that he would return and never forget her. But his words brought no comfort to Subhashini. Tears welled in her eyes, and her voice trembled. The next morning, Sonu's ship set sail from Mumbai's port to Port Blair. As the ship drifted away, images of Subhashini's sorrowful eyes kept floating before him. He wondered, was that our last meeting? Will I ever see her like that again? Fear and unease swirled inside him, but there was nothing he could do. During the 3-month voyage, Sonu and Subhashini continued to exchange letters. Their letters still had the innocence of before, yet both harbored a strange restlessness deep within. However, due to naval requirements, the 3-month journey was extended to 6 months. This prolonged period became burdensome for Sonu. During these 6 months, Subhashini's letters suddenly stopped. He kept wondering what had happened. Was something wrong? When the ship returned to Mumbai after 6 months, the first thing Sonu did was try to call Subhashini. But every time there was only silence, no answer. He tried many times, but the result was always the same. Troubled, he went to the hospital where she worked. But there, another shock awaited him. A colleague informed him that Subhashini had resigned suddenly and returned to her parents. Sonu asked for her address or contact information, but no one had any details. His heart was shattered. The fairy who had entered his life like a gentle breeze had now drifted away somewhere far. He kept asking himself why. What had happened that made Subhashini break contact? Was she angry with him? Or had there been some misunderstanding? In his mind, he could still see her innocent smile and deep eyes, the ones that had made him feel the first stirrings of love. Sitting alone in his room, he recalled every moment he had spent with her. The first meeting, the bus ride they shared, the conversation when she rested her head on his shoulder on her birthday, and that first kiss. Sonu's heart was filled with an emptiness, as if someone had taken away his very soul. Years passed, and Sonu's life became like a path leading to nowhere. His family arranged a marriage for him, but his wife never possessed the qualities that Subhashini had. Fate decide what one gets in life. One complication to another led to a situation when Sonu began to live alone, estranged from his family. Today he sits alone, lost in memories of the angel who disappeared from his life so suddenly. Sometimes in the silence of the night, he sits by the window and wonders if Subhashini ever thinks of him. Does she feel his absence too? Or has she moved on and found someone else? Or she got married under pressure from her family? Countless questions filled his heart, but there was no one left to answer them. The one angel to whom he had given his heart, without leaving a trace or saying goodbye, had vanished from his life forever.
दोस्तों, तो लाइक करो, सब्सक्राइब करो और बेल नोटिफिकेशन पर क्लिक करो।